am Lauren Clay, one of the facilitators for the Tuesday Forum. And I'd like to welcome everyone that's here to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum. As one of the conveners, along with Anthony McGarry, Winston Robinson, Robert Collins, Kim Hoops, Steve Johnston, Shay Abdul, Mary Johnston, and Carlenia Canty, Ivory Canty, and Jackie Edwards Walton, and Dr. Thomas Ford, and Dr. Matthew. I'd like to welcome you all here this morning, and we'd like to start off with the word of prayer. And Ken is going to lead us in a word of prayer.
Oh Lord, this is a great day. You made this for us, and may we go forth and be beneficiaries with others. That's a great day. We're going to rejoice and we're going to be glad. And during this day, may the words of our hearts and the meditations, the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be accepted. And though we have great will, Lord, may our will be in perfect alignment with your will, that we might serve others in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate that. Do we have anyone here that's here for the very first time? All right. If you would give us your name, and if you're affiliated with an organization or church or what have you, just share that information.
I am William Davis. I'm CEO of the William E. Davis Foundation. I came with the end part of last week. I said, oh, this sounds like something I'd be interested in. So I decided to pray about it, and God led me here. That's all.
Well, welcome, and welcome to our listening audience as well. And we invite you to come back. We meet almost every Tuesday at this location. We start at 8:30 and we end at 10 o'clock most of the time. And we usually have guest speakers that will come. We also have coffee available for you for those that are coffee drinkers. And if you'd like to make a contribution, we would ask you to do that if you feel so duly to do so. Once again, we are celebrating the National Military Appreciation Month, and we have invited to be with us this morning one of our own, Darrell Barnhart, who has been one of our elected officials, past elected officials, and he's still engaged in the community and doing a lot with the organizations that he's involved with. And we have the retired Brigadier General Tawana Tia Young, who is running a little late because of the traffic. Everybody knows what's going on in Charlotte as far as the traffic is concerned. And we have Edwin Quarles, Commissioner Edwin Quarles, is Edwin Quarles coming? Jack, have you heard from him?
I have not heard from him this morning.
Okay, but we're expecting him. But we'd like to make sure that we get information, and we'd like for everyone to be aware of the fact that we do celebrate those that have served in any capacity in the military, and this is the month. So let's just give them kudos for allowing us to be here and for safety, and especially with what's going on in the world today. We know they have played an intricate part. And just as information, Darrell, because you are here and haven't been here for a while, it's business as usual. We never know who's going to come. The invitation was sent out to over 1,000 people, so we never know who's going to show up. But people do come respectfully and they leave respectfully. So what we like to do is just allow you to speak about the military and your roles right now to let us know what's happening and your perception of what's going on in the world today, as we listen to the news and your perspective on where we are. And as our guests enter, what we will do is allow them to speak as well. But just as information to our one visitor we have here this morning, our rules are that we allow our presenters to present, and once they present, we take questions from the audience. So we will take questions, and those that have questions, if you raise your hand, we write it down, and we allow you to ask a question. And at this point, we would give him as much time as he needs to answer if the questions will be asked to him, if that's okay with Natalie, our timekeeper. So we want to make sure that we take advantage of this situation and congratulate him, but also listening to what he has to share. And we will, as people come in, of course, the crowd will grow, and as the questions are asked again, we just ask you to respond to those questions that are asked again. Have I missed anything there? Okay, so without any further ado, Daryl.
Let them know why they need to hold the mic up.
Yeah, is the mic on?
Yeah, you good.
And make sure you hold.
Yeah, you good.
Okay. Because we do have a listening audience.
Okay.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I was given instructions that this morning I will give an introduction of myself, and then also let me know what it is that I do and what I did as a military veteran. But again, my name is Daryl Bonaparte. This is home for me. I was born and raised here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in the Seversville community in West Charlotte. I grew up directly behind Johnson C. Smith University. So between Seversville and Bitterville is where I was born and raised. I grew up during the 70s and 80s, graduated from South Mecklenburg High School, class of 87. So I was part of that busing system back then, and went to the military, and got me a college degree while I was in the military as well, and business. And I was fortunate to spend 15 years. I did time active duty, and I did time with North Carolina Army National Guard. I came out of the military. I went through the car sergeant, as we call it. I was enlisted. I came out as staff sergeant. I started off as an engineer. Went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, as a combat engineer. I was an explosive expert tech, and that was short-lived. And I then went to medical school at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and there I became platoon leader over a combat medic unit. We were attached to the 1st and 113th Field Artillery. That's actually part of North Carolina National Guard out at the airport here in Charlotte. And so we deployed for Operation Iraqi Freedom, October 1st, 2003. I can, for some reason, never forget that date. That date changed my life for so many reasons. After 9/11 happened, there was a massive deployment, and we were part of the first deployment for Iraq. And so everything became real at that time. It became very real. And because during my deployment, I had got injured, severely injured in an accident. There's no fighting, no shooting. Got severely injured in a very bad accident in a tank. I was getting to ride the tank, and I was temporarily paralyzed. So I was fighting for my life again to be able to walk again. So I went through that for a month, guys. It seemed that was the longest month of my life, literally. But even after I got well, they didn't send me home. I didn't get discharged yet. So believe it or not, they still had use for me. So bodies are money. So that's how money is that comes to the unit. So I didn't get immediately discharged. So I became what they call a rear detachment, NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge, and I was in charge of headquarters. So during the entire deployment, which our deployment was 2 years, you had to leave your civilian job for 2 years. So there were guys like myself, I had a really great corporate job with Wells Fargo. Finally had a 6-figure life, and a lot of people were like me. And then as an NCO, you drop all the way down to $40,000. That includes benefits. When I tell you that was a shocker, guys in the National Guard Reserve, I'm telling you, it's a reality check. You gotta want to do it. You have to want to do it because it's not a life of wealth and glamour. You have to want to do it. But as a rear detachment in NCOIC, I was in charge of headquarters, and there were still new soldiers coming in. They were coming in brand new, and then I had to get them processed and send them straight over to Iraq. I had to take care of the families. When I told you that we were leaving our real jobs, so to speak, full-time jobs, and then going full-time military, and you lose a lot of income. So I had to help people get their bills paid. These are things that you don't hear about when people were deploying for the military, and that's even for active duty. Believe it or not, that's active duty military as well. But there are people on active duty that when they get done with their active duty job, they have part-time jobs off the base. That's a real thing, right? So I had to help get bills paid, cars fixed for the wives, the children getting back to school supplies for their children, what have you. We had big events, whatever. The community helped us. And because I was here locally, Charlotte really showed out for us. And we had a phenomenal experience, in spite of the fact that we had so many. All of us were deployed away out in the theater, and it was in harm's way. So I was responsible for death notifications, and I had to help with the command when they did that. I wasn't directly having to knock on the doors, but once it was done, helping them through the process, taking care of all the paperwork, what have you, because we did lose personnel that were killed in Iraq. And we had to make those notifications to the family here locally in Mecklenburg County and around the region where our soldiers lived. And that was something that I would never want to experience doing something like that ever again. The crying days and these guys that I knew for a long time, and then year they had passed away. We lost in combat. It was a lot to digest. So it was an experience for me that made me grow up to be more. You think you're a man, what have you, but military and combat will grow you up real fast, and it will help you become whatever it is you thought you weren't going to be. You have to toughen your skin up, toughen your mind up real fast when it comes to dealing with the combat. And I can tell when I get to speak to a lot of young men and women out here in the civilian world, I tell them, a lot of them think they're tough, and I tell them, I can show you tough. I can show you men and women, and combat and war is not something that you understand how serious that situation is. When you have bullets the size of this bottle of water coming at you, and what it does to the human body. And I was a combat vet, so I was unfortunately saw things that I just, you can't get it out of your vision, even when you sleep. So, so when they talk about PTSD, we had a lot of the young men and women who were working in civilian jobs, as I mentioned, and then none of us had ever been in combat. We had been training every month, every day. All we did was prepare for combat, but you had never been in it. And preparing for it can't get you ready to a point. But when you get there, and if I was preaching to the choir, some of you that know what that is like, when you get there, it is a rude awakening. Because you see people lose it, mentally lose it. Guys, those Jody letters are real. We call them Jody, Dear Jody letters that came to our guys, and being told they're being left and divorced and everything else. Why? While they're over here in the war and they lose it, literally lose it. And there are things that happen over in combat theater that, you know, it's just a lot to digest, a lot to see, the real world of it all. And people having to see and be prepared for things that for example, children. We have to be prepared. We have to be trained and be prepared for children trying to take our lives. We have to train them. You have to get into it. You have to leave Bank of America, you have to leave Duke Energy, you have to leave Wells Fargo, you have to leave whatever corporate job you have, and you have to be prepared to take the lives of children who's going to try to take your life. Trying to put it in perspective, because they did. They strapped bombs to those kids and sent those kids into camps to detonate themselves. And in order to save yourself and your family and your buddies, you had to take that child out before they got in. And this is a lot to process. Those are things that we had to prepare for. And those are things that actually happened. Because they were bounty on us. You know, $1,000 American dollars changed a life, big time over there. If you could take out an American or Americans. So it was a lot. And then when I'm back home, you know, trying to get through the process, and then also talking with the wives and trying to answer their questions, the families, things going on that, you know, I can't share all the stuff, but the real world is when these guys leave, life changes for their families, and not always in a good way. Because they were glued, they kept everything and everyone together. And so it was our job, who was rear detachment, as they call it, to keep their families together as best as possible, to keep their lives intact. Okay, they find people to go cut their grass, they find an electrician, someone to take care of the HVAC, someone to go and fix their car, someone to get their child to school, or the male children especially, when they're losing it, their dad has been gone for over a year, and their attitudes and demeanors seriously changed. There's a lot that goes on in the real world of what we have that goes on when we have to deploy on behalf of this country. And I go to another level with this. Because I'm just not going to be, I don't want to be all over the place because there might be questions to be asked. But for me, in 2026 and 2025, what is putting things that really in perspective for me, because I talked to a lot of Vietnam veterans, you know, as a young man and before I went in, and now that I'm in the military, now that I was in the military, now that I'm not. And the absolute cruelty of what Vietnam veterans experienced when they came home, right? The unbelievable cruelty that they received. Some of the worst because they were African American. Not only were you a Vietnam veteran, you were African American, and you were treated even worse when you got home, while in your uniform. Okay, the being lynched, being denied a meal at a restaurant while you were in uniform. And hearing the men talk about coming home on the airport and said, no, you don't wear your uniform through the airport. You know, and they tell one specific state not to. It didn't matter what race the Vietnam veteran was, it was because you were Vietnam. Well, then it comes down to 2025, 26, what have you, and how we are being treated now as veterans. And what I've seen, how they're going after up in Washington and some state legislators doing all they can to take away the services that we rightly deserve for voluntarily swearing that we would give our life. I didn't know any of you, but I had made a solemn promise that I would die for you so that you could come and do whatever you need to do in your life in daily life while I will be resting in peace in some cemetery because I said I would give my life for you. I wanted to put that in perspective how powerful that is. How many men and women long before me did that. And yet they are being targeted for all various reasons by politicians or by these crazy groups that are out here in America for whatever various reasons. You know, it is an honor to be able to serve your country and to keep our country safe. I don't buy into the attitude of we need to be involved in everything and everybody's business. I like to make sure that America is safe and that our borders are protected and that our country never have an invasion. But I don't know. It's a lot to take when you sit back now, knowing we were just following orders, blindly, because we're America, we're the powerful, we're the greatest, and in some aspects that's true. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? And like some of the times it seems like that responsibility has not fully been taken advantage of the way it should be. And we're doing things right now that is really very concerning to me, seeing our men and women being put in positions where they have to decide whether they should follow illegal orders, or they're considered legal orders, or unconstitutional orders, and things like that. And we didn't have that kind of thing, we didn't have that to contend with. But nonetheless, we have that situation now, and it's really unfortunate. But fast forward 100 miles, being a member now of the American Legion, the largest veteran organization in the world, and we have been at the forefront, and I'm glad to be at the forefront on behalf of my brothers and sisters and their families who have been experiencing what it is to be a veteran, what it is to be a family member of a veteran, and being at the forefront of going to lobby to our state legislature. Yearly we go to Washington, D.C., we go to knock on the doors and speak to congressmen and United States senators on bills that will help better the lives of the veterans and our families. And it is not an easy task. And if any of you have never done it, some of you probably have, when you go to talk to some of these elected officials, they're not wrapped in to be able to sit in those offices, you really wonder around the country how in the world they think that you were the best person to be in this office. And when we go to talk to them, the things that come out of their mouths to us, and the things that they have up on their walls, and we're coming in and we're dressed and we're ready to take care of business, and we're talking to people who really are not all there. And we're trying to get things passed. And lobbying, of course, as you well know, doesn't take a short time. It takes some years to get things done, especially in Washington, D.C., and our state legislature as well. And we work trying to get as much as we can locally and what's within their power, our local legislators. We are on the grind. The American Legion is an organization that's the reason why we have a VA hospital. The Legion is the reason for that. So every year, as the vice commander, I'm the vice commander, I'm over the state of North Carolina. We have a little over 35,000 veterans in our organization in North Carolina. So I'm one of the 5 department vice commanders that's over the state. And we have to go visit the VA hospitals, right? So we have to see if there's any need for lobbying or legislative changes that we need to go to Raleigh or D.C. to make happen on behalf of veterans and their families. We have to deal with the mental health aspect of it all, which is an everyday thing. We have to deal with the lack of good care in some aspects. It's gotten better, but some people still ask you, what is better? What are we comparing it to? Because in some areas it has not gotten better as you would expect it to be when it comes to the care of our veterans. So with that being said, I want you to know that we stand in the gap, and we are making sure that everyone has an opportunity who have served this country to be treated with respect when they're done, that their family members as well are given respect, just the respect and services that they deserve as well. So I would like to take any question anyone has about the military life, about the American Legion, and what we do, because there's so much more about the American Legion I'd be glad to share with you. As well as the military is still a good career life. It's not yet been destroyed. It's still a great career life for some people to change their lives. But I'd be glad to take any question anyone may have.
Okay, you facilitate the questioning. But what I'd like to do, and we thank you so much for this information. And we just think about military. You're gonna show up and you're gonna share something that a lot of us have not experienced. But there may be other people that's been in the military that's in our audience. And before we start taking questions, based on what he shared, is there something that you'd like to share? And we could give him 3 minutes. Nathan, what'd you think?
Well, I guess 5.
5 minutes, okay. Yeah, if this is just for people that have served in the military.
Can they come up front? Can they come up front?
Well, say, come on front, have a seat. When you look at the whole on the speaking autograph. Wow.
At the very bottom. Well, thank you. First off, thank you guys for showing up, and thank you for sharing. I was just sitting back there listening to you, and I remember my 1-year anniversary. The Twin Towers came down, and we went from aviation electronics engineers. I'm a Marine, by the way. My name is Lorenzo McNulty. I'm a United States Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Absolutely, thank you for the support. But what he's saying is absolutely true. We do a lot of work. Some of us have done some work over here. We're in West Charlotte a lot, particularly engaging young men. We're seeing remnants and vestiges of a version of PTSD that is coming from the streets. And I remember growing up, kind of bringing that PTSD into the Marine Corps, and then they sent it over to Afghanistan. So in Kandahar, he's absolutely right. It fractures the way that you see life, because virtually everything is a threat. Down to the children that when you left that plane, you love kids. You come out of America, you do things for the kids, only to get over there and recognize that you have to have this line, this hard, rigid line, because my brothers and sisters are dependent on us engaging in contact and through the rules of engagement, right? Do not fire until be fired upon. And it does something different, right? And just part of my story is coming out and having to come to grips with that. My grandfather was a Korean veteran, and coming out, they don't debrief you. They don't tell you how to untrain your mind, how to unsee those things, so that when you do close your eyes at night, you're not seeing just try not to get too vivid with it, but some of the images, and you are a point of that. Thank you for helping my guys, for one, because it's a constant onslaught. You hear those, anybody seen Black Hawk Down, that movie Black Hawk Down? You hear, like, it's loud, right? And that loudness, that consistent noise creates what we call a fog of war. Your thoughts, the chemistry in your body physically changes so that you can somehow come to grips with what is happening around you. We see it in our kids, we call it arrested development. It's when something so traumatic happens to them that their youthful brain cannot conceptualize what just happened, what they just saw. How do I compartmentalize that to deal with it and live with it? So thank you for coming up here and making us aware. I got a question for you too, but I want to make sure that we include her until we get her story.
Okay, my name's Addie Heron. Wow.
You just take your time.
I'm a part of, and I remember seeing you. I'm with the American Legion Post 216.
It's on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I I was sharing that, I remember his face. He came, and what is instilled in me to do is become even more active.
Yeah.
I joined the Navy Reserve back in '87, and and to be honest, my thought was I'll join because I wanted to travel, and I wanted to get the experience of the military. My uncle served in World War II. I was born in '53, so back then coming up, we didn't ask many questions. All I knew that he was in the Navy, he came home. But the history and me going back and being and listening and being involved in stuff, I went with the idea the Navy, the military had so many different programs, and I went into a program called an APG program. What they did was they took a look at the work you do as a civilian and match it up with the military job. So I went in as, an APG, had no idea that would be war. My unit was called up, and we had to leave Charlotte and go to Norfolk, the man the naval base. And I really felt sorry for all of those that were at the naval base. They had to leave the naval base, go to Iraq, and we had to land the naval base. And it was scary. I was in a unit where my job was I went in at 12 midnight or to 7 in the morning. And I have depression really bad. A lot of it I don't remember. I remember my job was to take a lot of the information off of the computers and get them ready for the commanders in the morning with all the airstrikes and the air raids. My fear was that at some point they were going to bomb the naval base, because I began to think about when Japan hit us, and my thought was Norfolk is the largest naval base on the East Coast. Norfolk is not far from here, and so the fear set in every night that I would go to work. And but anyway, okay. But just to hear, and it's so sad because a lot of people don't get the information. They don't get the truth. They just get the cover-ups.
Yes.
And it's so sad that our country, even now, it's like greed. War comes from greed. Wanting this and wanting that. But I can go on, but I'm going to thank you again. And what I said, it instills in me to do more for those that are still out there and those that are still hurting. I watched the program one night, and I'm going to end with this, and it was about PTSD and helping those people just get back in touch with reality.
Rightly so that when it comes to African American veterans and they're not being real pessimistic, or people being pessimistic about veterans, about being a veteran, this is what you all are doing. It touched my heart because we at churches and other organizations really never acknowledge African American veterans on a regular basis. Just at least at Memorial Day or Veterans Day, you don't get that much. And like I said, so I understand how this country made some people feel that way, but we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of veterans, African American veterans, for example, that are serving and have served this country honorably and put this country in a great place. But we never get the recognition or just one moment, just this 1 hour in a year from a lot of organizations where we are all the time. And we're literally veterans. who are doing phenomenal stuff in the civilian world as well, now that they serve the country honorably, but it never get the recognition during these times. And I just want to say thank you in advance. Thank you so much for this moment of recognizing veterans, us, for who we are now, our very existence as being Black veterans, because it's not normal that we get recognized within the Black community, Black churches and businesses at all. It's not normal. And it's really unfortunate that it's like that, but that's the reality, once again, for us.
Thank you so much. We have questions. Our first question is gonna come from Robert Collins.
First, thank you for your service, all of you. Mr. Bonaparte, this question is for you. You spoke about being paralyzed and you still had a couple of years left. Can you talk a little bit more about your recovery?
Yes, my recovery was, I was left in military hospital for a while, for a good long while, actually, and going through the process of, I've had several procedures on my spine over the years, and believe it or not, this is where we're in 2026, and this happened to me in 2003. Right, and so I had a whole lot of stuff done to me. In addition to that, I had 3 knee replacements. It was a really bad accident, so I had a lot done on my body, and I had brain injury as well. So to see me seemingly normal to you is a grace of God that I am. I put my feet on the ground every day and talk about, to say thank God. That I can put my feet on the ground, because at one time I thought I was going to be, in a wheelchair or whatever, for the rest of my life. And they flew my wife with me and everything, and she helped me through my recovery. And her presence literally helped me to think about recovery and getting through. Once again, I'm just grateful to God that it was a temporary situation and then it become permanent. But I live with pain every day. There are a lot of veterans that can tell you, I live with pain for so long, I forgot when it was that I didn't ever have pain. I live with pain every day. I have pain while I'm sitting here talking to you. It's always, it never goes away now. And that's a common part of my life. A lot of veterans, they could have some pain medicine to recover, but I went through therapy, physical therapy, and what have you. But when I got to a point where I was functional, then they sat me at a desk, and that's when as I said, I did rear detachment. Until that time was up to be discharged.
I was trying to get a seat for her at the table.
I'm good.
Good morning again, and thank you.
You deserve to be treated. Let's get you a better chair first of all. With armrest and steel.
Thank you.
Madam Facilitator, you want to introduce the brigadier?
Yes, we do have with us now Brigadier General
Tia.
Retired. That's a key thing, retired.
Retired, okay. General Tawana Tia Young.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I tell you, you know how special you are because I was driving through everything to get here this morning to see just you. So I'm grateful to be in your presence. I am a little snot-nosed girl from Darlington, South Carolina. Anybody know where South Carolina is, Darlington? There you go. That's right. The Lady Black. That's right. So I am the daughter of Pastor Annie and Willie James Williamson. Annie's 91. Deacon Williamson is 92. They've been married for 73 years. This year will be 74. So I come from a long lineage. What's also important to me is that there is a little white house where I grew up 60 years ago, still standing, and that's where they live. I enjoy having the opportunity to say that I am retired. How many in here are retired? It feels good, don't it? Yeah, feels good. But I'm also married to my boyfriend, my boo thing, my best friend. Recently, he got his doctorate, Dr. Tracy Young. Yeah, thank you for that. And we have 2 heartbeats, Leah and Tyra. So I've had the honor, as many of you, to serve our nation for 33 years. And in that time, I've been blessed to be able to obtain the rank of Brigadier General. The thing I will tell you about that is that Tia didn't get there by herself. There were a lot of NCOs that knocked me side of the head. There was a lot of officers that pulled me to the side. And there was a family and a praying mom and a praying dad that stayed on their knees in order for me to make sure I stayed on the right side of right and did what was correct in taking care of my soldiers. So again, I am currently the CEO and founder of LT3 Leadership Solutions, where we help frustrated leaders understand how to deal with conflict management so that they can retain employees, create better synergy in the climate of their organization, and command their space of brilliance in the marketplace. And I'm just happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you want to elaborate a little bit about your experience, in the service, we've heard from the 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
And
Let's talk about what I call my base of rappel tower experience. When I first came into the military, as I tell you that I'm the 7th, the youngest, if you can't tell, I'm the youngest of 7. So I'm the baby, and I act like it. But I will tell you, I went into the military really at the beginning as a first generational student for my family. And my brother and my sister was very adamant that I had to go in as an officer. Now, I think they wanted me to go in as an officer because they were enlisted and they wanted me to tell an officer what to do. And that's subliminal, just saying you're my little sister, but it was actually being able to tell an officer how to do and how to work and do different things. But in that experience, there were many people that I called that were my spotters. Say the word spot. They spotted me, and one in particular person that spotted me, again, like I shared earlier, I didn't get to the rank of Brigadier General by myself. There were many people around me that made sure that I stayed on the right path, and when I didn't, they knocked me back on the right path. And one in particular person that I am grateful for, and God rest his soul, is Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris. When I first got to Fort Jackson, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, second lieutenant, didn't know anything other than I was in charge and I was gonna get a parking spot. And that's all I was excited about. And I got to Fort Jackson and got to the quad to sign in and everything, and got there, and the first lesson I learned out of that experience was humility. So I saw the parking space that said adjutant, and my area of responsibility and expertise is in human resources. So I knew I had a parking space because it said the adjutant's parking space. So I walked my little happy-dappy step up in that building, and I walked in there and I said, "Hi, this is Lieutenant Williamson. I'm reporting as the adjutant." And that Sergeant First Class looked at me and smiled. And I'm like, "What do you mean? Why are you smiling? You excited about me being skilled in my own areas?" Yeah. I know I'm all that back. Yeah, I'm here. So I walked in and shared, who I was reporting in, and she said to me, I said, "I'm already in my parking space." And she said, "Ma'am, that's my parking space. And your parking space is in the back of the quad." That was my first lesson in humility. So I, with my tail between my legs, I got back in my car, got out of her parking space, and I went to the back quad. And there I met Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris, who was my training NCO. And he taught me more than just how to be a good training officer. He taught me about life. And my first experience with my first senior officer that I expected was going to coach, mentor, train, and teach me. I was so excited because that's what I was taught at school. right? That when you get to your senior leader, they're gonna coach, entertain, and teach you, you're gonna be the best leader you can be. So when I met this particular leader, this lieutenant colonel, it was literally at the base of a rappel tower. Where they would come on, the senior leader would come in, we had to explain, if you remember those days, you saluted, told them how many trainings you had, where were you in the training, what was happening, what was going on, and then you walked them around the training site. Well, at the base of that rappel tower, this lieutenant colonel and I began to have a conversation about, after the training, about life and longevity in the military. This particular leader told me that I had no right to be in the military, that he was going to do everything possible to ensure that I did not make it to the next rank, which he had to sign for and sign off on. But I stood there flat-footed. Again, I told you I have a praying mom and a praying dad. And I stood there and I looked at him, and I probably wasn't no more than 4'11", and that was on a good day. And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I will be here when you retire." I did everything else I needed to do. I saluted him and I returned back to my office. This is where Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris comes in as my spotter. I went back to my office, and truth and transparency, I went in my office and I cried. I mean, I cried like you just got a whipping for something that you didn't do, and you got blamed for it, and you got the big snot, all of that good stuff. Sorry for those who are eating, but that's how I was crying in my office. And Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris came to my door, and he knocked on the door and he said, "LT, you all right in there?" I'm all right, sir. And he said, "Okay, so do you plan to stay in there all day and cry? Or are you going to figure out the S word?" And the S word is what you think. It ain't shitty. The S word was strategy. He said, "How are you going to strategize in getting to where you want to be around this person?" So that person, Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris, taught me the second important lesson of my career, was that we are destined to be spotters for other people, and as leaders, we are required, that's a part of the job responsibility and job description, is that I am to spot the people that I'm responsible for and get the honor and privilege to lead. And in return, they will spot me. So that's my little base of rappel tower experience when I first came in, a little snot-nosed lieutenant who thought she was all that in a bag of chips.
You showed him.
The ending story to that is, yes, through teaching me strategy, he taught me how to play racquetball. Say racquetball. I said it myself. I said, "What does racquetball have to do with this, Sergeant First Class Harris?" He said, "Just learn how to play racquetball." Well, the idea was, I learned how to play racquetball because the wives played racquetball every Sunday. I was the only female officer in the entire battalion. So I would go and start playing racquetball with him. He said, "One Sunday you're going to go and you're not going to want to play." And I did just that. I went and I said, "I'm not feeling like I want to play today." And they were like, "What's wrong, T?" I said, "I can't talk about it." They were like, "Well, come on, talk to us." I said, I can't talk to you about your husband. I just don't want to talk about it. You know, it's just, I'll deal with it. Well, long story short, is yes, I got promoted to first lieutenant. And I went to his retirement ceremony. I stuck my hand out there with a big smile on my face. And I said, "Thank you for your service, sir." And I saluted and I moved out smartly. So strategy and learning to be a spotter for someone is important as a leader to me.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Our next question comes from Jackie.
I'm gonna ask a question now.
Oh, okay. All right. Winston.
Good morning to each of you, and thank you for your service. Mr. Bonaparte, I have a question for you because we come from a similar background. I grew up in Wilmore. I went to Myers Park for busing. And from my neighborhood, people would join the military for opportunity, right? That was our connection to armed services. So my question is really kind of what I'm afraid to ask out loud. When I go to Harris Teeter and they ask, would you like to support the troops? I'm thinking that's why they're the troops. They went to get the opportunity. They get the check. So when they say support the troops, what is the actual support for?
Over businesses like Harris Teeter, others, Harris Teeter, for example, they're helping with a lot of the disabled veterans. So they provide funds to organizations to help us to overcome, the disabilities and whether it's mentally or physically. And they're part of the corporate structure that are big contributors to helping, because everything is not VA. There are other organizations like Wounded Warriors that help us disabled veterans to cope with our mental and physical situation. And businesses like Harris Teeter contribute to organizations like those to help fund them taking care of us and providing outlets for us to overcome whatever it is that we're dealing with. And it's big. It's a big contribution, and every little bit helps because there's a lot to take care of: getting service dogs, wheelchairs, ramps being built at our homes, other things that these organizations do for us, and which Harris Teeter is part of the corporate structure that contributes to those organizations that help us in those ways.
If I may add on, here's one thing that I would encourage you to do, that any entity that is saying they're giving to the troops, do your homework.
Yeah.
Okay? Do your homework before you give your money to make sure that it is aligned with what you want to see happen. There are homeless veterans, many homeless veterans. And a lot of organizations, unfortunately, will say that they're out there giving to veteran organizations, which that is not the case. So I would encourage you that if your heart leads you to give, make sure that your money is going for the intended purpose that is being requested for. But there is a tremendous need. I sit on the board of Veterans Bridge Home here in Charlotte, and our goal and our focus is to do a warm handshake and hug to service members and their families that are coming to the Charlotte area, to help them get acclimated to the surroundings, help them get jobs, if they're having issues with suicidal ideations, those kinds of community activities and not-for-profit kind of organizations. You can give your money to them as well, that you can see, and they have to publicly share what's happening with the funds that are being given to see your money being put into action.
Good morning, and thank all of you for your service. Thank you so much. Tim, I have your book. I have your book. You signed it for me. You probably don't remember me, but my husband knows your husband through the Omegas.
Okay, all right.
So I've seen you quite a bit. And I wanted to say, my father was my father was a World War II veteran, and he was at Pearl Harbor when all of that happened in Pearl Harbor. And my husband is a Vietnam veteran. So I know about veterans, a lot about veterans. And one thing I wanted to say is that when a veteran passes away, a lot of times they don't know where their medals are. They've got lost through the years, but you can order those medals. There is a website, I forgot, we ordered them for my father. You can order their medals no matter what war they were in. There's always, as long as you have their D2 something. D214, their discharge papers, you can order their medals, and they will send those medals to your family, and they will also come to the funeral and do a salute. Yeah, do a salute. So that's what I want to say.
May I wanted to add to what she was just saying. It made me think of something. You have family members that are veterans. Wherever county you're in, wherever they are, it is a good practice to have them to put a copy of their DD-214 down in the Register of Deeds office. Put in a copy of that, and especially if the family member, of course, is still alive, a veteran, put a copy of their DD 214 down the register of deeds. Anything happens to them, you will have their military record there. Their service, the medals, those things are on there. Have them to put a copy of that so that you don't have to worry to look for it at the register of deed office and have that on file. That will help take care of a lot of things, especially when it comes to burial and other beneficial services. You can access the DD 214 much easier when you have it down there on file.
And I'm gonna add to that, we develop senior safe housing for veterans. We work with Veterans Bridge Home, and that comes back to your question. So one of the things, if you know a veteran, you're familiar with a veteran, I'm gonna encourage you to do the same things that we do when we intake someone, is get them connected to the VA health care system. They do a lot. The more the veteran ages, the more benefits become available to them. They just need the coordination, the case coordination. And those donations go, so there's a couple of different pots of money that come into play when we're doing business, right? So if you want to have a 501c3 or a program like that, or a business or something, you can also take donations and start your own fund and avenue to give back to veterans. It's a tax write-off, so it'll benefit your business as well if you're giving those charitable contributions. But what we use those to do for is wraparound support. What we're talking about here, we've got mental. First off, the statistic is that 1 in 5 of us in here has an undiagnosed mental health issue. That's just the number. So veterans, yes, but all of us are a part of this thing. And so we need to be having these conversations at home. We need to be having these conversations with the people that we know and we love, because another thing, we're so linked to the mission a lot of times that we don't include ourselves, our own health in that mission. Even though we're important to you, we're important to, whatever position we play in that family, oftentimes the mission for veterans supersedes their own health. Right? And that PTSD, the other health issues that we gain, he's in pain. I'm sure a couple of us are in pain up here right now. But they're going through that and suffering in silence. And so what oftentimes we miss is something simple of just providing a landing pad or a safe runway so that those conversations can happen, even though they may sound different than what the civilian world has given us to think about. But to be able to speak that in a space, and shout out to my wife for being in that space, and my family for being able to I don't want to say put up with me, but put up with me, right? So that's what I wanted to add to that.
Okay. Ken.
My dad is a graduate of A&M College in Texas, and as a science major, he got a permit and went to a CC camp. My oldest uncle was in the Korean War, POW and MIA, survived and returned home. My youngest uncle was in the Army and in science and research. I went down and volunteered for the Marines in 1968 as a linguist, French major, German minor, and they told me they would send me to Vietnam as an interpreter in the field and teach me Vietnamese at the world's best language school in Monterey, California. I said, no, there you won't. So I walked around the corner to the Air Force. My brother-in-law was a career Air Force, and they told me, oh, you're a linguist, we'll teach you Vietnamese, and you will be an interpreter on our bases in Vietnam. I'm gonna go in the field? Oh no, you'll be on our bases. And the bases are where? In Vietnam. I said, okay, let me get back to you. And subsequently, I did volunteer for the North Carolina National Guard, and before I was actually inducted, the draft ended. So, but my question is more.
I say all that to say this.
As a child of the 60s, and you heard about, you mentioned the Vietnam vet returning and what they dealt with. And here we are in 2026, and as we learn history, we learn that a lot of our wars were not necessarily justifiable. nor were they, in the best interest of humankind. And now we have a leader who is clearly representative of that. So my question to you is how you kind of maneuver through your emotions about some of the things that our military may be employed or deployed to do now, when you may think that some of those things are not consistent with the American initiatives.
So I'll take that one first. I will tell you, I was just on, a couple of months ago, I was on Fox 2 News in Detroit, and had the question posed to me about, so you have National Guard who are doing X, Y, Z, Army Reserve that are doing X, Y, Z out in communities, and now they're being pulled away from their jobs, et cetera. And it was dealing with what was happening in Canada and Detroit, right? So I could have family members over there. How do I deal with that? That now I could be pinched against them. What I said, and I was speaking to the soldiers and I was speaking to the families. Now the commentator was trying to get me to say something else, but what I wanted to be very clear. As a soldier, as a service member, you have the right to ask a question of your leader. And if you're not asking those questions and you're just going blindly, then that's on you. That's number one. Number two, we owe it as leaders to explain the why when we can. But the reality of it is that we all volunteer, most nowadays. You volunteer to raise your right hand, say those 72 indelible words that you will support and defend the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. So you volunteer. You can always get out. But if you're going to be in it, be in it. Not every leader, whether in corporate or in the military, is going to be right, going to be good. I just told you about my base and repel tower moment. What had if I had stopped there because of that leader? There would be no Brigadier General retired Twanda E. Young, where there's only 1% that makes it as a general officer in the service, even less as a female, even less as a black female. So I think it is where we have to teach our servicemen and women, you have a brain. Think for yourself. As military, we're supposed to be apolitical. That is the reality of where I have to stand if I'm going to support you having the ability as a nation to have choice. Not everybody's going to agree with what I think or what I say or how I look. But I made the choice that it was important enough for me to raise my right hand and volunteer and fight for democracy. So from my view, it is where, one, that service member has to internalize where he or she is, and does this still align with my values and my morals? And if it does not, just like you volunteer to come in, you volunteer to go out.
Okay.
If I could add, so I'm a Marine, and and we often go by the acronym of USMC, right? United States Marine Corps. Once you're in that USMC, same letters mean something completely different. And they're eager to tell you that you signed the M contract, right? And what you're saying is very real. I remember being in Afghanistan and seeing what we were doing, encountering real-time situations, just the fog of war, your thoughts are changing, and we adapt and overcome. That's what we do, and adapt and overcome, and you sign the contract, ultimately summarized is separate your facts from your feelings, right? It's never gonna feel good to have to eliminate a threat. It's not gonna feel good, right? Is it necessary? Many times it's necessary, right? And so what it was, and that was a challenge that many of us were young. Many of us were very, very young in the positions of leadership, in the positions, we took 50 plus Marines over here. I'm a kid at 19, right? And we're leading Marines, And it's a difficult thing to see your people suffering and the mission still needing to be, right? They tell you there's a casualty to this war. There are going to be casualties, both on your side and the opposition side. And so we grapple with that. We bring chaplains in, our experienced leaders, because she's dropping some gems here too, our experienced leaders. We ask them questions to help us frame this. It's about framing. And, you know, sometimes you're only there for 1. You're supposed to be there for 6 months, which turns into 9 months, which turns into 2 years, right? And so you're grappling with a variety of things. And so the political thing, and I can't be political either way, but it kind of falls second or third or further down the line. There's a lot more priority when you're over there focused on the mission. I hope that helps.
Okay, we have quite a few questions, so we're gonna ask Javale has a question next, and what we would ask you to do, and I need you now, Natalie, we want to go back to 30 seconds, because we have quite a few questions. And if you all can give us a minute, and if you direct your question to the person, if you want all 3 to answer, do that. But we're on a time frame now. So do that.
Good morning, thank you for your service, I sincerely mean that. I just had a question for you about political aspirations, but since you come in, I heard about your book that I just purchased on Amazon.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a member of the Black Men of Greater Charlotte, active member in good standing. I mentor young black males in Title I schools the past 4 years. First 2 years, I was part of Admiral McCraven's book, Make Your Bed. Year 3, I requested a bunch of copies to start giving to my kids, no response. Since that time, I've been finding military people, running the military vets and saying, hey, we need a new book for us, Make Your Bed. My question is, will you all please, either you, ma'am, or you all collectively, make us, for our young black males and young females, Make Your Bed. That make sense?
Well, I would tell you, Dare to Lead Differently, chew on this 16 bites for bold leaders. It's about making your bed and leading in that space. So I tell you this, if you have my book, here's my personal number, 757-572-8341. Once you've read that book, let's have a conversation.
And I'll share the curriculum I come over too.
Now, not to put the cart before the horse, but this is a live stream that goes out worldwide. You just gave your personal number. Now, so we want to make sure that you're okay with that.
If a service member needs to reach out, or someone that wants to reach out because they want to help, I'm all about doing that.
Okay. I came in a little late. Just to let you know, the mics are for the streaming audience, not as a small room, but this this program goes out and is distributed online.
Hi, everyone.
Give a call if you need me.
Hey, call me if you need me, but don't play with me.
Good morning, my name is Shalmar Johnson. My husband is Army National Guard, he's serving. He's been deployed to Afghanistan, he's also been deployed to Kuwait. He has this issue, and I want to know if three of y'all has experienced this or experiencing this, that anytime we go out to a restaurant, he does not like sending his back to the door. So I just want to I just want to know that I think for him that's military, that's serving because of that. So I want to know, have anyone of you have that same experience?
Just to take my part on that real quick. You remember I was speaking earlier about the training that they give us to be prepared to deal with children. And when we were preparing just to go to Iraq, when we were called to deploy, we had to train on how to be prepared for all types of scenarios. And you have to keep your head, I call it, head on the swivel at all times. And it was a real thing. And I remember being in the desert of California and going through the training. It was out there, not only going through desert training, but it was about dealing with the people that we were going to be encountering. And it got you to a point where you were on high alert at all times. And I was already on high alert. I had already been in the military for years. But having to train for it, you got to the point where when I came in this door, I I was always looking, I sat over there on purpose so I could see the door. No one knows it. No one knew what I was doing, but I sat over there so I could see the door on purpose. I don't go without looking. It's just something that we're trained to do instinctively now. Because in the civilian world, it seems to me now, it's even worse now. In the civilian world, that you have to be prepared for. You military people, please have that compassion for them, because that's a real thing. It's not to play. It is a real thing that we don't like to have our back to the door. We like to be prepared. We were actually trained to protect you. And so that's a protective mode, or protective instinct as well, as to make sure that we can see what's going on. While you're talking to me, I'm always looking at you, but I'm sparring on screening the whole room while I'm talking to you, so I gotta have my back, not have my back to the door.
Good morning. I appreciate all y'all's service. I have aunts and uncles in the military. My cousin's an Army Ranger, so I think he jumps out of helicopters.
Yeah, airborne, baby, airborne.
Something intense, I know that. So I appreciate your service. You know, I heard y'all talk about like framing and the like the children, right? Like somewhat of it occurred for me as a justification for killing kids, you know, which like I can get, right, as a threat. I think that what we're seeing today in modern warfare, aside from, you know, our commitment to Israel dragging us into another forever war, that justification and the border of it is expanded in terms of framing, that they're justifying killing 65% civilians, you know, to get one militant. Is that a valid justification or expansion of that justification, or is that something that as U.S. military we vehemently stand against?
Well, I will say to you, I thank your family for their service as well, and more importantly, I thank them for what they do that you've never seen, or we have never seen as a nation to keep us safe. I think based on your question that you're asking, it's more in-depth, it requires more context. Again, going back to, we put leaders in position for reasons. I don't have to like every leader that I've worked for. Has anyone ever liked every leader you worked for again? The answer is no. However, that leader is in that position for that purpose and that moment in that season of time. And while they're in that position, as a service member, we're to do our job, which is support and defend. Always go back to the Constitution. That's why I always tell my students, go back to the Constitution, because that is our oath of office. That's what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for a crazy boss to tell me I didn't have any right to be in the military and that he was going to do everything he could to make sure I didn't make it. I signed up to give every one of you in this room and my family the opportunity to be able to have the right to have a choice. And for that, I'll stand on it flat foot every day. Just turned 60. I know I look 30, but just turned 60. But I will serve my nation now in a different capacity. But again, as I was telling the young man over here, do your education, do your own research on where you stand and why you stand in that position. But always, always, please support our military servicemen and women.
I have been to this meeting many times, but this one is really, really touched my heart. I'm from South Korea. As you are aware of it, South Korea would not be the country which it is without American army came to save us from communists. My grandfather got killed in a bamboo in front of my mother because he was a landowner. And he was killed by a communist. And Korea is located very valuable because we have an unfrozen sea. So we are attacked by so many countries throughout the history. And just thank you so much for your service from my heart. My question is that I was involved with the homeless community, serving them, and I've seen many veterans being homeless. And since we have so many programs to serving ex-veterans, why we have homeless people that serve the country so dearly? And if I can help more, I'd like to know more about what other services are available. Thank you.
get that one.
Regarding homeless veterans, it is, I'll say this quickly because others that can add to this. It is not as simple as just reaching out to help veterans. Some veterans, when it comes to the mental capacity, is not one where you can just freely walk up to help him or her. There are some veterans that have some very serious mental situations. That's why when someone says, wow, the church is doing more, churches are not equipped to support and provide a service to some of our homeless men and women. Their mental situation is one that's very severe, and anything can happen and it can be volatile. That's just the truth of the matter. But we want them to be helped, and we want all of us homeless to be helped. But when it comes to our veterans, you don't know what he or she has experienced and what brought them to that point. Okay, and we're dealing with homeless veterans a lot. I have over my career, especially with the American Legion, and dealt with in so many different ways. And some they want to be, and we like why. And some of this they just kind of done with things. You know, you ask a real conversation. You're on the street, you're talking with them. It's real conversation. But the services are needed. We are needed to provide that support to them. But be aware that in all situations dealing with the homeless veterans, be prepared. You be prepared, because it's not every situation won't be the same. That you just reach that hand out, you can find a resource, you can put them somewhere where they can live, you can get them a job. Everything is not as simple. It's not as ABC. There's a lot of complexities to helping our men and women, but we are very, very grateful for those that do.
Okay, Gary.
Yes, ma'am. You were saying earlier, just as easy as you can go into the military or volunteer in, you can volunteer out. Is it really that simplistic to get out of the military, or as I thought there was a contract you had to adhere to in your service? What is that exact process?
So yes, I mean, I can't go in today and then go out tomorrow. I mean, but in simple terms, if you no longer want to serve, you can request to retire. You finish out your contract and you don't renew, you don't re-enlist for enlisted soldiers, or you do your time out. But once you have signed that contract, just like signing a contract at work, they paid you, right? You get no benefits and all that good stuff. You have to do your part. But if you truly no longer want to serve, then you're really not a good fit for volunteer service in the military. So why would you stay? Because you're not helping push toward the goal and win and fight and defend the nation. You're actually being a barrier to it. But yes, in simplistic terms, HR wise, you can put in to be released. There's now what's called the old thing of retirement. You gotta stay 20 years and then you get out. That was changed before I got out. Now it's the blended retirement system, meaning that you can get money based on the time of service in which you have served. So there are ways to get in, there are ways to be chaptered out.
I wanted to also say, what happened for me was, and I came out with a medical situation because of the mental depression. So, and not to say that a person would just say, okay, yeah, I'm crazy, let me out of here. But there is a way. There's always a way.
Okay. Shay, you want to address that?
Yeah,
Hey, Shay.
I just wanted to get up because I always get on the microphone and announce what we're doing on Memorial Day at Cedar Grove Cemetery, and it's been a phenomenal experience. I'm so happy to see Brigadier General Young, who's been our partner in that with Veterans Bridge Home since the very beginning. We're doing it again this Memorial Day. You guys are all invited. It's a beautiful ceremony where we honor the soldiers that have been abandoned and left for lost in Cedar Grove Cemetery. That cemetery was abandoned in 1973, and those soldiers haven't been acknowledged until Veterans Bridge Home showed up, till Brigadier General Young showed up, and we look for all of you guys to hopefully show up as well as we celebrate them again this year. But I wanted to acknowledge everybody. We also have a podcast called The Lost Soldiers. Ken does a fantastic episode on that show, Mr. Ken Kuntz. And we also have a dynamite episode with Brigadier General Young. So please check that out and come hang out with us on Memorial Day this year. Thanks.
So again, my second question. My father fell ill last year, and I had no idea what dealing with the VA would be like. And it is, well, you know. So, and it just seems like such an enormous problem. You don't even know where to begin to unlayering. However, you're also going through a time where you really need it. How do you navigate such, especially with family members who have no prior context to what anything military systematically is like? How do we weave through these situations that seem like endless, just a maze after maze with no end? And you got, the reason I know what 114 and 214 is expensive knowledge. Now, I don't think I should know what that is and how important it is, but how do you encourage family members who are not experienced with how the military systems work, navigate these spaces of need?
Okay, let me say this. We really have to cut it off for announcements. So if you can get the succinct as you possibly can in answering that question. I'll talk with them afterwards.
I can give you a very good question. I can give you two things. First thing, if you have a veteran that's experienced in any sort of hardship and they need to be connected with the VA healthcare system, connect them there. But the advocate for you is called the VSO. The VSO is like your representative that engages all of the resources that you need. You tell them what you need, they go find the resources to plug you in.
Is that it?
Yeah,
VSO is where you need to be plugged in. Did you want to say something?
I wanted to make sure when it comes to that, having access to the 14 is extremely important for all family members who want to help, because it helps to probe where they serve, when they serve. Because the VSOs don't look for that as well. But Veteran Service Officer, Mecklenburg County has 3 locations. One on Freedom Drive, right off Eastway Drive, and the newest one is in Huntersville. Now, they have Veteran Service Officer that is paid for and financed by the Mecklenburg County Board of County Commissioners to help veterans get through the process with the with the VA hospital. Okay, it is very important to get them connected to a certified Veteran Service Officer. Not one that says, hey, I know how to get through the system. A certified Veteran Service Officer will help them through, and I'll talk to you more afterwards, and help you. The American Legion, as well as other organizations, have certified VSOs to help family members maneuver that.
Once again, we thank you all so much for coming. We ask you to come back to be with us in other times, but we definitely need to have an extension of this conversation today, where people will know and understand, and I really appreciate what you all have done for us. So with that being said, just a closing statement that you all would like to make, and we want to say from the audience and for those that are in our listening community this morning, we want to say thank you all for your service and your continued service, and we encourage you to just continue to share this word with as many people as the words that you've shared this morning, with as many people as you possibly can. So with that being said, you all can just give us the last few words, because we do have to get announcements in.
Final words: engage. If you got people again that are service members, doesn't matter how long ago, engage with them and point them towards resources like the American Legion. The other part that they're used to and they often miss and don't say is that community, that camaraderie that comes with being enlisted or being an officer inside of our armed forces. But so push them to groups, push them to healthcare, push them to people who can speak that language and have experience like these great folks up here, and can have real plain conversations with them and make them feel a little bit more human about what they're going through.
Thank you.
Okay. My thing is ask. You have not because you ask not. A lot of times, it's depending on where you are. A lot of times when I go into just different places, to just tell you people to ask for military discounts. Whether it be food, clothing, shelter, ask for the military.
It's been an honor to be here. It's been an honor to be here. Saying my name again, Daryl Bonaparte, Charlotte native, loving this moment, this experience. My military career changed my life, and having been honored and recognized by you all, I sincerely again say thank you for this moment. The American Legion, I've been spending an hour to 2 hours or more telling you just about all the services, scholarships, and everything that we provide for our youth. We are about the community, and being around since 1919, the American Legion is an act of Congress, literally, and we are looked over and checked by Congress every year to make sure that we're doing what they instill for us to do. So we have a lot of services that we provide within the community to the youth, to the high schools, to youth, what have you. And I can spend a lot of time just providing answers and question and answer sessions just for that. But I want you to know that if you need anything, I want to get my number, 704-502-8237, 704-502-8237. So they can provide you access to the resources that we have, the American Legion, as well as other veteran service organizations. And lastly, on June 2nd, we are going to descend on Raleigh to make sure that Raleigh legislators pass a bill to provide for 100% disabled military veterans to no longer pay property taxes like South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia does. So we will be there. Anyone wants to join us, we'll be getting there at 0800 hours. We'll be arriving. You can use my cell phone number to call me, and I'll give you more details about this important time. We'll be going and descending on Raleigh on June 2nd.
Well, I am very thankful for the opportunity to sit up here with these awesome Americans and this very beautiful young lady right here. And these, of course, the NCOs, right? Okay. But I will tell you the thing that I encourage you to do, whether you're online or whether you're in this room, and that is to continue to care. Because your caring means that you will put some action behind it. That means when you see someone, you will not just say thank you for your service. Add a little bit more to that. I thank you for what you've done that I don't get to see, that allows for me to have choice. I thank you for sacrificing to allow me to be able to have choice. Because there's a lot more that servicemen and women and their families go through. And many of you in here that have shared that you are supporters of family members that have served, they need you to continue to care. We need you to continue to care. So I thank you for putting this on and having an opportunity for the voice and stories to be shared. As military, we all got stories. Let me tell you, we all did stories. That you can tell how I started out, right? Caring means that you may sit and just listen to that story. Sometimes that's all we need. We just need to be able to reminisce and go back to a happier place in time for that moment, just to allow us to be able to then bounce back to where we need to be. But I thank you for what you're doing that we'll never see, that helps servicemen and women and their families and organizations like we have here today to be able to provide community support to those who have raised their hand and allow us to have choice on a daily basis. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our panel. Thank you for making growth in Natalie. If it's Natalie that's standing up in all of us. A round of applause standing ovation for our service members who keep us safe and protect us. Thank you so much. We will just stand on up and keep on going. Why you standing, just leave because of the leave. It's not ours anymore. We do not have time for announcements. Send them to Steve at SJohnson@TuesdayForumCharlotte.org. Yes, we have to leave here, so you might as well, keep those knees active and upright. Meet some people, network fellowship, but they good for me. Don't have to go home, but you gotta leave here. Thank you for joining us. Next week we will have the CRPTO, the state, and other entities for
NC Dart.
the highway. Pro highway.
77.
Pro 77.
No.